works.
You did it.
It works. I have no idea how computers work, and it worked.
Aren't you about to run a book club through Zoom?
Yeah, I don't know what we got ourselves into. Josh was like, let's do a book club thing, you know. I'm like, because I just do this hashtag of isolation book club.
Yeah.
And I didn't think it was like a real book club. Apparently now it's a real book club. Woo! I've never been in a book club before. No one's ever wanted me in a book club.
No. Oh, I don't have a book club because I don't know if I want to read that book.
Yeah, well, there's that. But now I get to choose that book. So he's only
Control.
He'll start barking at us. Also,
Well,
now no longer know where I end and the dog begins.
It's really, that would be mine. Who is actually?
Oh, he's got to start barking back now.
He's chained to my son's ankle.
Yeah,
because
my daughter's 3. I think there are laws against me chaining the dog to her ankle.
It's probably not a good idea. I did see the hilarious picture of her writing her big books, but in the background there's a box that looks like a face. I don't know if you knew that.
Oh yeah, like it's kind of,
me up.
I don't know, it's weird. I don't know, weird things live in my study.
But it's an awesome study. You have a great study.
I have to say, it is my one. Look, put it this way: we're a bit stuffed if there's another kid anywhere down the track, because I requisitioned the bedroom and put shelves in and all that. But I'm assuming if I just clear a few books from a shelf, you can just slot a baby in there. That's how they work.
Stick them in there. They could just grow up in a library, basically, and I can't think of anything better.
I wish I grew up in a library. That would have been amazing.
I kind of did. My mum's a librarian, so I spent all my childhood in the stacks and the smell of books. And I just used to look through everything, whether or not I could read it. And I found myself doing that at uni. I'd just go sit near all the journals and just pull them off one by one and have a look, because I had to figure out the databases. Too,
but like I clearly had a deprived childhood because I didn't get that. But I had to sneak to the libraries myself, or bookstores. Like I used to Mum would be like, we'd go to like a shopping center and I'd disappear. And she wouldn't like panic. She'd just go to the first bookstore and there I'd be.
That is very cool. That's very cool. My little one's like that, but my older 2 are a bit more resistant, I think.
So far my daughter's like going the whole book thing. She loves reading. She reads to her. I come downstairs and like she's reading to her friends, and like she's got them like the soft toys laid out in front of her, and the and then she's just like reading through a book, but just making it up, right?
That's perfect.
Her book, it's funny. The other day she read Ben Hobson's Snake Island.
Oh,
I just had it on my bed.
Oh no!
Yeah, and she was.
It's the pelican. It's the pelican.
She was reading to her doll about a character called Stinky. So
okay, fair enough.
I put it on Twitter, and Ben said that it's not that far off accurate. And I'm now about like a third of the way through, and I've yet to find this Stinky character. So I'm waiting. It's going to happen.
That's your big thing. I like it. I remember saying that. I love that she's doing that. When I was learning to teach, they used to. This is 20 years ago, and I haven't really taught a lot since then. But they would say that in the countries that are the best at maths, they learnt the music to the maths first. And so some of them were if you said to them, do you know your 6 times table? And they'd sing a song and they'd be like, oh, I don't know the words yet. They just knew the music. And that was like this really foundational concept of that, all the stuff that goes around it. And then that carries you through. So she knows how to sit down and read a book to people. She knows how a book works. It doesn't matter if she hasn't actually read the words.
Yeah, this is the thing. It's also the beauty of like the creative mind of a little child that we sort of not be shaped by with structure. But when it's just free to roam, they don't need to actually know what's on the page, because they can just tell a great story about Stinky and Stinky's dog Louie. So
I love it.
Which actually now that it occurs to me, if Stinky's dog is Louie and Louie is my dog, I'm a little bit worried about how she thinks of me. Which, to be fair, also accurate, but like leaving that aside.
So, and you're trying your hand at writing for children, for her. That's how I started. It's a dangerous, slippery slope. How are you finding it?
Funny. Well, it's actually an idea that was born of a story my partner and I used to tell our nephew when we saw, like, he lives, her sister and the kids live overseas. When we see them, we had this story, and the oldest one. So this is how long the actual idea. And I was like, I'm going to write this story properly for my nephew at some point. And nephew didn't get around to it, but now he's been kind of knocked off the perch, and his character has been replaced with her character, and that's how it goes. Like I snooze, he loses, but she wins. So
those first nieces, my niece who's now 18, when she was born, she was like the pride of the whole family. I looked after her all the time. I lived with them for a period of time, and now my mum's up to 11 grandkids, and it's like, when were you born? So who do you belong to?
Like my parents only have the one grandchild, and my partner's parents have 4, so it's still manageable. But like basically, once my daughter's born, I pretty much forgot my nephew's name.
Yeah, so, yeah, they become less important.
His name, I refer to him as older kid. I do know his name.
The other one.
Yeah. The other two, I can't bother learning their names at all. But like the first one's called Yona.
Oh my goodness! But I did find last night, and my daughter's just turned 7, and she's my last daughter. How many have I got? She started reading on the Kindle because she sees her siblings doing it, and she's very grown up. So she has all of her real books, but then she has to have something on the Kindle because that's.
I love that you also call them your real books versus what's on an e-reader.
Well, James, my son, slip of the name, uses the Kindle because he can make the text really big. So for accessibility, so we have a lot on the Kindle for that.
That's good.
For the size of font and things like that.
Yeah.
So he really likes his. My youngest has no issues reading other books, but she still likes them being on there. She found all my oldest's Nancy Drews. That was funny. I was thinking about that. But she also then found on there one of my drafts of a novel I wrote for them.
Oh,
so
how cool is that?
I'd sent it as a PDF, and it's even got like handwriting on it to fix it. So she starts reading it, and then she starts laying into me. She's like, "Mom, I just don't even think this is my kind of book. It's just not exciting at the beginning." And I'm like, but she goes through the caves and she's like, yeah, blah, blah, blah. And I thought, right, that is why I never pitched it. That's why I didn't pitch it.
Yeah. My daughter was all excited when she realized that I'd written the book. And so she asked me which one's my book. So I showed her mine, and she looked at it, and she was like very pleased. And she asked whether I wrote it for her. And I showed her the inscription because she happened to be born 2 weeks before it went to press. So we were able to quickly put her name in the dedication.
Very good.
My poor partner was like, what did she do to deserve this? To get equal billing. But then since then, she keeps telling me which book like she's written. And, in the tweet thing yesterday, it was bloody the new Hilary Mantel. So I've got like a 300-page book, and she's already got like this 900-page book to her name. She's like, absolutely destroy me.
Oh, no. Yeah, they find it very hard to understand, and they're not quite sure why it's taking so long. They were like, they see one copy of something, they're like, well, that's out and done now. And then I'm like, oh, but this version came, like the final, and they're like, still that one? Like, you're still on that book? What?
Yeah, well, mine took 8 years to write, so like I'm a slow writer.
Look at it. That would have taken a very long time. And what did she say about the title? Did she have any questions?
Oh, she doesn't. Well, she just apparently that's also about Mr. Stinky or whatever the character is. It's I'm glad to know that I'm like cross-platforming with like thrill, like Australian Cormac McCarthy thriller type things like Ben's book, but
absolutely.
The funniest thing is though, like when a book like Book of Dirt, like I'm very excited for her to read it, but I'm in no rush for that to happen. Like, I want her to know kind of her family's story and know that this is a story based on people that were important to her. But I don't think I need to traumatize her just yet.
There's plenty of time to get there with finding out certain things about your family. I'm not sure when it happens.
Well, I remember like Arnold Zabel telling me that when his son first started reading his books when he was kind of a teenager, and it was like it's kind of confronting because you're putting difficult family histories on a page that they know, the kid knows who these people are, and even if it's not a family thing, if you're writing,
they still think it's them, even if it's fiction. They still put themselves in, even if you haven't named them, or actually even thought about them when you wrote it. They will assume that they are someone in there. Complete lack of pigment.
I'm the lovely shade of terrible pandemic beard.
Pandemic beard. Well, they've had the nurses have had to shave them off.
I saw that. So I was like, well, my partner just said to me that she goes, you actually should be like, cause I'm actually in full isolation because I'm high risk. I've got quite a medical history. Yeah. So it's kind of greatly sucking. But leaving that aside, my partner was like, well, you should actually be shaving because you need to get rid of anything that can carry the virus.
Yeah. It's rough. It's really hard. I don't know where our immune status laid. I'm on the list with a neurological disorder.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Where I should be, but it's a bit hit and miss there. And then my little one,
at the end of the day, like everyone just has to be as vigilant and as safe for themselves and for others as they can, and
for other people,
you do what you can to make sure that you're staying safe and that people you love are staying safe, and that just, generally people out there are staying safe, and you're not the transmitting vector that that gets them sick.
Being really clear with yourself what's a necessity.
Yes.
Like, I really want a new dressing gown because I didn't buy one last winter, and mine is just it's got like blue tack and Play-Doh, like forever living in the sleeves, and I'm really looking forward to. I'm in Queensland, so it's a few weeks off where I'll need a dressing gown, but it's my favorite writing attire, and I didn't buy one, and now I don't know. That doesn't count as a necessity. That's an online shopping moment. Even
I don't know, there's all these, now the online options, we're doing that as much as we can, but now, doing the contactless drop off where, the shopping bag gets left at your door, and then, do you wait 4 hours before you go pick it up and come in with Glen 20 spraying the crap out of it? I know.
Yep.
What do you do? It's actually really hard. And also food wise as well. I'm like, I want to support the local restaurants around here and like just get delivery and all that from them. But, can I trust their food preparation? But I really want to, because firstly, they're depending on it. And also I have lots of really yummy restaurants around me that I don't want to see them close down. It's partially selfish, I'll have to admit. That's, what comes with being someone who eats far too much. But yeah.
But then you get, do you buy all those ingredients, or do you just get the version where someone else got them all and they made it, and you don't have
and also you like that whole kind of thing where, I can't go to a supermarket, but like my partner goes on very occasionally, and she's kind of like, do I go and do I stock up because we want to minimize the number of times we're going, but you also don't want to take more than you need.
You don't want to panic buy
it. For other people.
Yeah.
I had a really weird incident with insulin because I'm diabetic, type 1 diabetic, and I was in the chemist, and I've never had it before that the person in front of me was also there to get insulin. And the chemist was like, I've only got 5 boxes left. And that's a kind of, that would be about, it's a few weeks supply, I would say. Yeah. And the guy said to the guy, he was really nice, and he goes, how much do you have? I go, I actually have a couple of boxes left. How much do you have? Like, I'm down to my last vial. Or you take it, I'll find another, I'll find more. And the next day I found, so it's fine. But like, it's quite scary when you're essentially rationing out things that your life actually depends on.
And you, completely depend on them. Yeah.
You really want to be doing the right thing, but you're like, people are scared, and like, I get it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the kids are scared. They don't get it.
No.
They don't really get it.
And, people my parents' age are refusing to get it. So.
My mum finally at the very last minute called off her camping trip.
Oh.
But
we ended up doing if you go into complete quarantine and you don't do anything for 2 weeks, we'll discuss you being able to see your grandchild.
Yeah, having the 2 weeks is good.
What it took.
Yeah. We had a 2-week wait after my oldest had her appendix out, and my mum had come to help. It was just at the beginning of this, but we realised then they had a case at the hospital.
Oh, no.
So then we were all waiting, but that was okay. And my grandma, bless my grandma, who's nearly 94, she rang me. We don't FaceTime that often, but she called me last night. She goes, "Oh, did you call me yesterday?" And I said, No. She goes, "Oh, and I didn't call you back. How are you?" And I was like, well, there was a segue.
Yeah.
They're feeling it a little bit lonely.
It's just like, it didn't really matter what your answer was.
Nah. So any excuse to help them.
Yes, well, I didn't call you back. It's funny you should mention that, because like my grandmother is 90, almost 96, and she's kind of starting to go not so well. Like she's been pretty amazing for a long time, but this couldn't have come at a worse time. Like she's finally starting to have comprehension issues and all that. So, you know, they've locked down the home, as you know, as they have with these, and they've had to, understandably. So we can't see her, and they're offering to do to set up Skype sessions for family, which is nice. But like, you know, trying to explain it to her and trying to, like, she thinks she's being punished and being kept prisoner because she did something wrong and they're not letting her out, you know, and I just can't explain, you know. And it's just so sad because, I mean, living in a home is already sort of a lonely experience. You don't have your family immediately around. You know, you've got a community there, but you don't have the same as if you had, you know, your family visiting and what have you. And we just can't.
No, they rely on people coming in. For my grandma, it's the person who makes her bed every day, who takes her dog. Right. So she takes her dog around, she makes the bed. My grandma has treats for the dog. They always used to have a dog. And just that person to come and do that every day was just meant so much to her. And now she's not allowed now. So that's going to be a really tough thing. And we watched, because we just lost my grandfather, who was 96, and he had Alzheimer's. And so he felt trapped already. And this would have just done him in, because he used to escape. He used to watch them type in the codes. And then he'd be smart man. I walk 2 miles a day, and he has done for the last 40 years. They can't stop him. Oh, grandpa. So yeah, I'm kind of in, it sounds horrible, but it is a blessing he's not going through this. I don't think he would have coped. And I don't think, and memories of imprisonment, I don't think he would have coped with that either. So thank goodness.
Just like, it's terrible. It's like in so many different like aspects of everyday life. It's just there. Yeah,
there's going to be a lot to recover from trauma-wise. I don't know how much, because there's a lot of people going through that memory of things that have happened, and there's people who are going through things now that are going to have to be processed later. Do you think you're right about it?
I'm still struggling to process it myself. Maybe writing is a way to try and process it, but like, I don't know, there are just so many good like plague and isolation novels out there that I think, you know, don't know that I'd be up to competing with them. But you know, for me, what I'm finding weird is in terms of like processing trauma, like the whole kind of, you know, inherited trauma and post-trauma of, you know, successive Holocaust generations and what have you. And I was just thinking about, like, you know, the film Life is Beautiful, where he's trying to make his kid oblivious to what's going on. And I'm sitting there going, you know, I really relate to that. I remember then I feel guilt that, I don't want to compare myself to that sort of a situation, as I'm like kind of negotiating this weird sense of connection with what that film's about and like what I'm feeling, and guilt for feeling that connection. So I don't know, maybe there's something to be kind of written about that. I don't know.
Yes, I'll edit out the bit when my daughter just asked me a question. Just love you much, kids. No, I think you're right. I remember I saw you on stage at the Emerging Writers Festival last year. You were very kind to me as I asked a very nervous question, and talking about inherited trauma and how it affects us biologically. The new research into that and how it's actually
it's like the epigenetics and all that. Like, there's no question that you carry trauma that you didn't live, you know. And I think I said to you, if I remember correctly, I had this kind of idea, and I in a way this whole thing has it's shifted this a bit. Like, where I was thinking that, you know, my generation, or even, you know, that a bit younger than me, was our role was swinging the pendulum the other way. Like, if you can inherit trauma, you must be able to inherit healing too, right? So if you work
that's a very good point. I like
stopping that. Like if thank you.
That's positive.
It wasn't actually until you asked the question at Emerging Writers that I even came up with the idea. So you can take claim. You can claim.
Oh, there you go.
Right?
I
It's all
can have
yours.
a bit of credit.
You know, just that you need to like work through trauma that you inherit, which for me actually writing the book of dirt really was, in the hope that you kind of come out the other side with a sense of healing that you can then pass on to your children, I suppose, and in that genetic sense. And unfortunately, as my daughter was born after the bulk of it was written, she's just got the trauma. But, you know, if there's another kid, the one that doesn't get a bedroom, then...
library, growing up in a library.
Yeah, the one who sleeps in a library will hopefully get some degree of healing, and maybe have at least a slightly lesser, you know, therapist bill in 30 years' time.
Yeah, there's a whole novel there. The baby that grows up in the library to recover from trauma. And
that's a good kid story as well.
So I wonder, I mean, in terms of the autistic community, the amount of trauma that we've had from living in a world that doesn't understand, or that we think we don't belong in. And I can see in my family how that's come down through the generations and how we've dealt in different ways, and what's then happened.
And I imagine, like, you know, in previous generations, not even identified really.
Oh God, no idea. And even now, my grandma, and she'll read something and she'll go, oh, and then she thinks that's grandpa, but she doesn't see it in herself. A lot of, you know, just this dawning understanding of, oh, you mean this is, you know, these troubles that we've had trying to fit into this world, and what we've then suffered through that, which is a very different kind of trauma, and it works on a really different level to the physical space and what happens in that. But yeah, and I wonder how much that's passed on to the point where that's why we've got the anxiety and depression in the neurodivergent community. But then there's a chance that could change. So if it becomes a positive narrative, then maybe what else we inherit along with those genes, because we don't understand genes that well yet, and what we do inherit might change in what comes alongside as bundled in. You know, it's not necessarily going to be a case of anxiety and depression just because you're autistic or have ADHD. We might be able to separate them.
Right.
And this is, there you go, that's my hopeful thought.
No, like just the idea that what we can give the future generations is actually positive is, particularly at the moment, is I think like really like kind of a beautiful thought, and like an important one, like to kind of hold to us while we're particularly going through this collective trauma as well. Like not only is there a light at the end of the tunnel, but like it's also one that goes well into the future in a positive way. Yeah,
we got this all way. And there's a balloon coming across my face.
I mean, that's like fun. That's like super fun.
There you go. But thank you so much for coming on, and I hope you have a productive isolation.
I'm entertaining a kid. It's productive. It's fun. What can I do?
Yeah.
Thank you.
The number you have dialed has been changed.